This $13 billion floating city is constantly tearing itself apart thousands of miles from the nearest safe port, trapped inside 100,000 tons of stressed steel. 5,000 sailors simply cannot afford to retreat. How does the U.S. Navy repair these massive aircraft carriers while they are still moving at full speed? Let's uncover the extreme logistical miracles keeping this fleet alive. Right now, in the Unforgiving, Category 5, Swells of the North Atlantic, a $13.3 billion apex predator is violently slicing through the ocean. This is the USS Gerald R. Ford CVN-78. She currently displaces exactly 100,000 massive long tons. Her hull is forged from 3-inch thick HY100 steel, engineered to withstand 100,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. Yet, inside this impenetrable Leviathan, the human body remains terrifyingly fragile. A sailor's eardrums rupture at 5 pounds per square inch of overpressure. At 15 pounds per square inch, the human lungs collapse. At 50 psi, catastrophic internal hemorrhaging guarantees instantaneous death. The ultimate narrative of naval supremacy is defined by this visceral, horrifying contrast between a billion-dollar machine and the microscopic margins of human survival. Picture this sequence. The deafening wail of the general quarters alarm shreds the silence. Blood-red battle lanterns illuminate the claustrophobic, 24-inch wide passageways. A simulated Mach 3 cruise missile bypasses the Aegis network, violently penetrating the 4.5-acre flight deck. The kinetic impact severs the ship's JP-5 aviation fuel matrix, while ripping a massive 12-foot jagged breach below the waterline. Ambient temperatures inside the immediate compartments spike from 68 to 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit in exactly 4 seconds. Simultaneously, the Atlantic Ocean violently surges inward at 30,000 gallons per minute. In the civilian world, procedure dictates immediate evacuation. On a United States supercarrier, you run directly into the apocalypse. The foundational doctrine is absolute every single soul on board, from an 18-year-old culinary specialist baking pizzas to an elite F-35C fighter pilot, is a highly trained first responder. They are not merely firefighters. They are damage control specialists trained to simultaneously extinguish infernos, execute emergency dewatering, and weld steel patches over catastrophic hill breaches while submerged in freezing seawater. This extreme multidisciplinary capability is the ultimate safety net. A flooded compartment can sink a ship just as quickly as a raging inferno, requiring immediate and coordinated action. This is a blood-soaked legacy. On July 29, 1967, the USS Forrestal suffered a chain reaction of detonating 1,000-pound bombs. 134 sailors died, yet ordinary men saved the ship by physically pushing scorching ordnance into the sea. During World War II, the USS Yorktown took 3 direct bomb hits, but her resilient crew successfully patched the ruptured flight deck in mere hours. Today, that iron will is deeply institutionalized. Damage control repair parties don 45-minute SCBA oxygen tanks. Grip thermal imagers wield hydraulic shoring kits and charge into the abyss. Now, face the ultimate psychological nightmare. You stand at a reinforced steel bulkhead. Behind the watertight hatch, a Class Bravo fire consumes oxygen, and freezing seawater is simultaneously rising past the knees of your trapped crewmates. Their frantic screams echo through the cold steel, but the localized flooding is mathematically projected to breach the next boundary in precisely 20 seconds. If that toxic water penetrates, progressive flooding will directly threaten the A-1B nuclear reactor, risking a meltdown. Do you crack that hatch, rushing into the blinding flames to drag your crewmates out, or do you violently crank the heavy hand wheel, permanently locking the boundary, burying them alive to save 5,000 others? What do you choose? If you possess an uncompromising respect for the iron will of these damage control sailors, who shoulder this unimaginable psychological burden every single day, hit that like button and subscribe. Your support fuels our mission to decode military survival. But extinguishing a catastrophic fire and pumping out thousands of gallons of seawater is only phase one. Once the immediate threat is smothered, how does a crippled city of steel surgically reconnect its severed hydraulic blood vessels and restore combat power? While isolated in a hostile ocean, a supercarrier is not merely designed to absorb devastating kinetic punishment. It is engineered to biologically regenerate itself. Buried beneath 11 armored decks lies the most powerful engine on the planet. This is the A-1B nuclear reactor. It splits atoms to generate an unfathomable 600 megawatts of thermal energy. This dual reactor provides limitless propulsion to 4 30-ton propellers, while generating 104 megawatts of raw electrical power. The engineering department serves as the vascular system. They maintain 400 miles of electrical cabling and operate massive freshwater desalination plants. They process 400,000 gallons of potable water daily, ensuring the survival for 5,000 souls. Overseeing this labyrinth is the Maintenance Management Department. They orchestrate a relentless logistics ballet that never sleeps. They mathematically schedule thousands of overlapping repair cycles, tracking over 100,000 individual line items, from replacing microscopic fuses to overhauling massive turbine bearings. They ensure the right specialist reaches the failing component at the precise microsecond required. The absolute pinnacle of this self-sustaining omnipotence resides within the Aviation Intermediate Maintenance Department, known as AIMD. Do not mistake this for a conventional garage. It is an ultra-modern, heavy industrial manufacturing plant compressed into the belly of a warship. Inside this cavernous machine shop, you will not just find standard wrenches, ratchets, or drills. Instead, you are confronted by multi-axis computer numerical control milling machines and state-of-the-art direct metal lasers centering three-dimensional printers. The United States Navy bypassed traditional global supply chains by adopting additive manufacturing. They fabricate airspace-grade titanium structural joints for stealth fighters while pitching in the middle of a hostile ocean. Visualize this high-stakes combat scenario. An F-35C Lightning II executes a brutal emergency landing. The heavy aircraft violently catches the arresting wire, but extreme kinetic deceleration severely fractures a critical hydraulic titanium actuator bracket within the landing gear. In the civilian aviation sector, this aircraft is instantly grounded, awaiting a replacement part that takes 90 days to ship. On the supercarrier, the timeline is aggressively compressed to 48 hours. AIMD technicians immediately utilize handheld stereolithography scanners to create a microscopic digital twin of the shattered component. They feed this exact complex telemetry into a high-temperature metal printer. A high-powered laser systematically melts ultra-fine titanium powder, layer by layer, digitally forging a structurally perfect, combat-ready replacement. Here is the psychological and physical terror of this mechanical wizardry. The ocean does not stop moving just because you are running a delicate machining process. How do you feel about the prospect of using a heavy lathe to shave a titanium shaft down to a tolerance of 1,000th of an inch, while the deck beneath your boots pitches 15 degrees in sea state 4 swells? The climax of this engineering pressure cooker occurs when the primary weapon system suffers a catastrophic failure. The electromagnetic aircraft launch system, classified as EMALS, is the exclusive kinetic muscle of the Ford class. It utilizes massive linear induction motors to magnetically accelerate a 30-ton fighter jet from 0 to 160 miles per hour in exactly 2 seconds. During a moonless combat patrol in the Red Sea, a central cooling pressure relief valve within the EMALS matrix violently snaps under intense magnetic strain. The 4-acre flight deck is instantly paralyzed. The carrier air wing is grounded. No FA-18 Super Hornets can launch to intercept incoming hostile targets. The carrier is rendered defensively impotent in enemy waters. The young, sleep-deprived engineers of AIMD are handed a terrifying ultimatum. Operating deep within the suffocating bowels of the ship, bathed in extreme ambient temperatures reaching 122 degrees Fahrenheit, they must immediately reverse engineer the shattered proprietary valve. They cannot download a civilian blueprint. They must mathematically reconstruct the exact geometry from broken metal shrapnel. They extract a solid cylinder of raw alloy. For 12 agonizing hours, they cut, grind, and mill the heavy block. They verify extreme pressure tolerances using onboard portable X-ray crystallography units, bleeding from metal shavings and severely dehydrated from relentless heat. They successfully reinstall the custom forged valve just as the sun breaks over the horizon. Three-dimensional printing microcomponents is a miracle. But if a massive multi-ton jet engine catastrophically fails, where do they ever source a replacement from? The United States Navy does not retreat to a safe harbor when critical macrocomponents are completely destroyed in battle. Instead, they weaponize logistics by dragging a massive, heavily armed warehouse directly into the active combat zone. This highly classified, high-stakes capability is officially designated as Underway Replenishment, universally referred to as UNREP. It completely eliminates the strategic vulnerability of returning to a static naval base for major structural repairs. Executing an UNREP is a terrifying collision of extreme physics, complex hydrodynamics, and raw human nerve. It requires a 100,000-ton aircraft carrier to sail perfectly parallel alongside a 50,000-ton supply ship. Both colossal vessels must forcefully accelerate to a sustained velocity of precisely 15 knots, translating to roughly 28 kilometers per hour. They must maintain a razor-thin separation gap of exactly 150 feet amidst turbulent seas. Operating two massive steel hulls in such extreme proximity immediately triggers a deadly hydrodynamic phenomenon known as the Venturi effect. As the Atlantic Ocean is violently forced through the narrow, shallow corridor between the two speeding warships, water pressure plummets. This creates a massive, invisible vacuum vortex that relentlessly acts like a high-powered, inescapable industrial magnet. The ocean actively attempts to violently slam the two colossal leviathans together with crushing kinetic force. The survival of both crews rests entirely on the microscopic, calculated adjustments made by the helmsman on the navigation bridge. They must maintain the designated heading with an unforgiving error margin of less than 1 single degree. A momentary lapse in concentration, or a slight miscalculation of the rudder angle, guarantees a catastrophic, fiery collision. The resulting impact would shear through heavy steel plating, instantly detonating 3 million gallons of highly volatile aviation fuel. To truly comprehend the sheer madness of this procedure, you must translate it to an everyday civilian perspective. Have you ever tried physically handing a heavy object to a passenger in the vehicle right next to you, while both cars are speeding down the highway at 100 kilometers per hour? Now, multiply that paralyzing terror by a factor of 100,000 tons, and add the unpredictable chaos of crashing ocean swells. To physically bridge this deadly gap, the fleet utilized the standard tension replenishment alongside method, classified as stream. A pneumatic gun violently fires a heavy messenger line across the churning, foam-covered abyss between the two ships. High-tensile steel cables quickly follow, securely anchored by massive, industrial-grade hydraulic ram tensioners below the main deck. These mechanized lungs automatically compensate for the violent pitch and roll, maintaining a relentless tension of 8,750 pounds. Now, witness the absolute climax of this mechanical madness unfolding under the darkest storm clouds of the deep Atlantic Ocean. Hanging suspended from this shivering wire is a brand new afterburning turbofan engine, destined for a grounded Super Hornet. This single piece of high-precision aerospace machinery weighs precisely 2,445 pounds without its casing. Its current replacement value is a staggering $4 million, and it is dangling freely over the crushing, freezing waves. The operation must proceed despite a sudden, violent force 7 crosswind, howling at exactly 35 knots across the flight deck. The fierce gale attempts to forcefully rip the heavy titanium payload right off the traveling trolley mechanism mid-flight. The primary steel highline cable snaps drum tight, vibrating with a high-pitched, metallic shriek that echoes over the deafening ocean roar. Red warning lights flash rapidly on the rig console as the hydraulic tensioning system registers dangerously critical overload parameters. A rogue 20-foot swell violently elevates the supply ship, causing the aircraft carrier to forcefully dip simultaneously into the trough. The digital alarms scream incessantly as the structural integrity of the steel rigging system is tested to its absolute limits. If the main wire snaps under the immense tensile strain, the resulting whiplash will instantly slice a deck sailor in half. The riggers flawlessly secure the $4 million engine just before the tensioner fails, proving the technology works perfectly. This masterpiece guarantees that the military war machine never halts. The technology is perfect, but what is the cruel price draining the fragile humans behind it? We marvel at the flawless, seamless transfer of million-dollar engines and the relentless hum of nuclear reactors. But the gleaming, invincible steel always hides a rapidly decaying foundation. The absolute greatest vulnerability of the United States Navy is the physical and psychological collapse of its own people. The maintenance system is currently being pushed far beyond its designed operational limits. According to shocking official reports by the Government Accountability Office, the Navy is facing a catastrophic shortfall of 84,000 enlisted sailors. That is not a minor administrative gap. That is the equivalent of multiple entire carrier strike groups entirely missing from the roster. This severe manpower hemorrhage forces a shrinking pool of personnel to shoulder an impossible operational burden. The fleet is doing vastly more with significantly less. Standard 6-month deployments are a forgotten relic of the past. Today, grueling 270-day deployments without touching land have become the new standard. The USS Dwight D. Eisenhower recently endured a punishing 9-month deployment in the Red Sea. They operated in a constant state of extreme high alert, consistently intercepting Houthi anti-ship missiles and explosive drones on a daily basis. This relentless operational tempo inflicts terrifying wear and tear on the vessel, but it absolutely massacres the crew. The chief petty officers, the most experienced veterans on the ship, are experiencing an unprecedented burnout epidemic. They are routinely working brutal 18-hour shifts in sweltering engineering spaces. Fatigue degrades cognitive function, turning routine maintenance tasks into lethal hazards where a single mistake can cost a limb. Yet, within this grueling crucible of exhaustion lies America's most unassailable strategic advantage. Look directly at their nearest peer competitor, the People's Liberation Army Navy. Their newest Type 003. Fujian aircraft carrier is a technological marvel, boasting advanced electromagnetic catapults. However, their entire logistical doctrine remains fundamentally tethered to shore-based infrastructure and highly vulnerable friendly ports. The Chinese fleet currently lacks the global network of forward operating bases and the deeply ingrained doctrine of underway replenishment. A catastrophic mechanical failure in the deep Pacific forces their vessels to limp back to a mainland shipyard. In stark contrast, the American supercarrier is its own shipyard, forged by 80 years of relentless, blood-soaked operational experience. This brings us to the ultimate twist of modern naval warfare. We obsess over the $13 billion price tag of the Ford class and its revolutionary digital technology. But I ask you to seriously consider this harsh reality. Can $1 billion purchase a single extra hour of neurological alertness for an engineer who is physically collapsing from exhaustion? The answer is absolutely not, under any circumstances. The ultimate, most terrifying weapon in the United States arsenal is not the A-1B nuclear reactor or the stealthy F-35C fighter. The true supreme power lies within an invisible 19-year-old E-3 enlisted technician. He is surviving on barely 3 hours of broken sleep over the last 14 consecutive days. His eyes are completely bloodshot, and his knuckles are bleeding from slipping on greasy titanium bulkheads. When the critical early warning radar array unexpectedly loses power right before a simulated enemy strike, he categorically refuses to let his ship go blind. He crawls into a pitch-black, suffocating radar dome, clenching a tactical flashlight in his teeth. He solders a microscopic circuit board purely by muscle memory, single-handedly saving 5,000 souls. This is the undisputed foundation of absolute American naval supremacy. It is an exclusive, global monopoly on human resilience. The fleet remains an unstoppable force, not merely because of perfect engineering, but because of ordinary human beings who violently refuse to surrender. They willingly perform open-heart surgery on their warship, in the middle of a hurricane to keep the greatest machine in history firing. If this exhaustive deep dive gave you a profound appreciation for the ultimate synergy of naval supremacy, the $13 billion steel Leviathans, the brutal engineering miracles that sustain them, and the silent warriors who bleed to keep the engines firing, prove it right now. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. Let us know what shocked you the most, the unstoppable machines or the unbreakable human will behind them. We will see you on the next front line.